Okay, let's talk about Thoreau today. Henry David Thoreau is one of the most well-known, he represents transcendentalism. He was basically a student of Emerson's. He's 14 years younger than Ralph Waldo Emerson. At one point, he even goes to live with him and his family, um, just, doing work around the house, and that's how he paid his way. And the two, Emerson and Thoreau, they kind of go together. When everybody's talking American Lit and they talk about transcendentalism, you get Emerson and Thoreau. They just kind of come as a pair. Um, Thoreau actually does a social experiment on essential living. And he does this at Emerson's house. So Emerson has this land and happens to be on a pond. And so Thoreau goes and builds a cabin. And this is all information from page 237 if you miss what I'm saying. But he builds a small cabin on the shores of Walden Pond. So this is the famous Walden that maybe you've heard about before. But he builds this little cabin. He only spends $28.12 to build this cabin. And he lives in it for over 2 years. So I did a little checking and translating and whatever, and that would be like spending $885.22 to build a house, a small cabin today. That's not very much money to build a cabin with. So this thing had, just the basics. So he lives there. It says that he writes, he communes with nature, and he supports himself with occasional physical labor. By working only about 6 weeks each year, he could live simply and independently during the remainder of the year. Can you imagine only working 6 weeks out of the year and the rest of the year you don't have to go to work? That'd be crazy awesome, right? However, most people can't do that because of our lifestyles, because of the things that we think we need. So Thoreau is really living very simple. That's the only word I can think of is to say that he lived a very simple life, only the essentials. So the whole idea behind it, and this is a quote from the book, is that Thoreau did not want to spend his valuable time working for unnecessary material goods, preferring instead to simplify his needs and concentrate on mental and spiritual activity. How much of what we have in our lives is unnecessary? Unnecessary material needs. I think it's kind of funny that he's doing this in 1847. 1845. He's trying to find a simpler life. He's already recognizing the materialism of this world, of America. And he's saying, you don't need all that stuff. And, it's so true. Like, we get so caught up in feeling like we have to have everything and we need this and we need that. And really, there's very little that we actually need. And, but yet, as adults, we spend we spend the majority of our lives working for these material things. And he's saying it's not worth it. So instead, he wants to do mental. So he's going to do a lot of studying and spiritual activity. So some people say that he was a hermit and he stayed in this cabin and didn't do things with people, and that's not true. He walked into town a lot. He visited. He went to other people's houses. He even had people come out to Walden, to the pond. But he spent a lot of time just observing very closely sometimes the details of nature, of his environment, the plants, the animals, the pond in each season of the year. So instead of just reporting on what he saw, he took this 2-year experiment and he wrote about it as in the 4 seasons. Okay, so that's kind of how it's set up, is just to look at the 4 seasons as the structure of the book. So I don't know. I think there's a lot that we can learn from Thoreau. I think that there's a lot that we can look at in our lives if we really wanted to and say, that's not necessary. I don't need that. And maybe work less than what we do. So we're going to look at Walden. In your book, it's just an excerpt. So it says from Walden and from, and then the different chapters. You're not getting the whole thing. You're just getting little excerpts from it. But it's what we have. So what I would like you to do for the weekend is on page 238, you start with Walden, and this section is titled From Where I Lived and What I Lived For. So this is kind of his reason of why he is doing this experiment. So you're going to read through that. Starts on page 238 and goes through to page 242, and there will be some questions attached to on a document. Okay, so enjoy Thoreau.